You have done this before. You met someone. Something about them felt electric, familiar in a way you could not quite explain, like you had known them before, like something in you recognized something in them. And you ignored the signs. Not because you were stupid, not because you were blind, because the feeling was too strong to question. And then, weeks, months, sometimes years later, you found yourself in the exact same place you swore you would never be again. Wondering how it happened, wondering what is wrong with you, wondering why you keep ending up here. Here is what nobody tells you. Nothing is wrong with you. But something is running in the background of every choice you make. Something older than your last relationship, older than your last heartbreak, older than any person who has ever hurt you. And until you see it clearly, it will keep choosing for you. In the 1960s, a British psychiatrist named John Bowlby proposed something that changed how we understand every human relationship that follows childhood. He called it attachment theory. The idea is this: as infants, we are completely dependent on the people who care for us, and the way those people respond to our needs, consistently or inconsistently, warmly or coldly, reliably or unpredictably, programs us. Not metaphorically, neurologically. It creates a template in our nervous system for what love feels like, what closeness feels like, what safety feels like. And then, for the rest of our lives, we go looking for that feeling. Mary Ainsworth, who built on Bowlby's work, identified 3 core attachment styles through her now famous strange situation experiment. Secure attachment, anxious attachment, and avoidant attachment. Securely attached people, those who had consistent, responsive caregivers, move through relationships with relative ease. They trust. They communicate. They do not panic when things get hard. Anxiously attached people, those whose caregivers were loving but inconsistent, spend their relationships in a state of low-level terror, hyper-vigilant to every shift in mood, reading into every silence, needing constant reassurance, and never quite believing it when it comes. Avoidantly attached people, those whose caregivers were emotionally distant, learned early that needing people is dangerous. So they shut down. They pull away exactly when closeness becomes real. They convince themselves they prefer to be alone, while being deeply, secretly, exhaustingly lonely. And here is where the pattern begins. Anxious and avoidant people are magnetically drawn to each other. The anxious person feels the avoidant person's distance as mystery, as depth, as a challenge worth everything they have. The avoidant person feels the anxious person's intensity as flattering, because the more the other person chases, the more control they can maintain without ever having to be truly vulnerable. It feels like chemistry. It feels like fate. It is neither. It is 2 nervous systems recognizing a familiar dynamic and calling that recognition love. Carl Jung understood this a century before attachment theory had a name. He called it projection. Jung believed that we do not fall in love with who someone is. We fall in love with who they remind us of. We carry inside us an unconscious image, built from the first relationships we ever witnessed, the first version of love we ever absorbed, the first dynamic we ever felt as normal. And we project that image onto real people, like a transparency laid over a photograph. We respond to the image, not the person. We love the reflection of our own unconscious, until reality refuses to hold the projection anymore, until the image cracks. And we are left looking at a stranger, wondering where the person we fell in love with went. They did not go anywhere. They were never the person we thought they were. We were in love with a mirror. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But transformation requires truth. And truth requires seeing the person in front of you, not the person you need them to be. The philosopher Erich Fromm spent his career asking one question that almost nobody asks before choosing a partner. Not, do I love this person? But, do I know what love actually is? In his book, The Art of Loving, one of the most important books ever written on human connection, Fromm argued that most people treat love as a feeling that happens to them. Something that arrives. Something that you either have or you don't. Something outside your control. He said this is the fundamental mistake. Love, Fromm wrote, is not a feeling. It is a practice. It is a skill. It requires knowledge of yourself and of another person. It requires discipline, patience, and the willingness to truly see someone rather than simply feel something around them. Immature love says, "I love you because I need you." Mature love says, "I need you because I love you." The difference between those two sentences is the difference between a relationship built on hunger and a relationship built on choice. Most people who keep choosing the wrong people are choosing from hunger, from a need so old and so deep they have never stopped to name it. They are not choosing a partner. They are choosing a feeling. And the feeling, that electric, overwhelming, can't eat, can't sleep feeling, is almost always the feeling of familiarity dressed up as passion. The psychologist Hendrix, building on both Jung and Bowlby, developed a theory he called Imago relationship theory. Imago is Latin for image. His central idea is this: we unconsciously seek partners who carry both the positive and the negative traits of the people who raised us. Not because we want to suffer, but because our unconscious is trying to finish something unfinished, to heal something that was broken so early we cannot even remember it breaking. The child who never felt truly seen by a distant parent grows up and falls in love with someone emotionally unavailable, and spends years trying to finally get that unavailable person to see them. The child who grew up walking on eggshells finds themselves in relationships where they are constantly managing someone else's emotions, because it is the only kind of love their nervous system knows how to recognize. Hendrix wrote, "We are born in relationship, we are wounded in relationship, and we can be healed in relationship." The pattern is not a punishment. It is an invitation. An invitation to finally look at what you are actually carrying and ask whether you want to keep carrying it into the next relationship, and the one after that, and the one after that. So what does any of this actually change? It changes the question you ask. Instead of, "Why do they keep doing this to me?" you ask, "Why do I keep choosing people who do this?" Instead of, "Why can't I find someone good?" you ask, "What does good actually feel like in my body? And have I ever let myself have it?" Instead of, "What is wrong with them?" you ask, "What is the part of me that recognizes them as home?" These are not easy questions. Bowlby, Jung, Fromm, Hendrix, none of them promised easy. They promised something more useful than easy. They promised that the pattern is not random, that it has a logic, that once you can see the logic, really see it, without flinching, without making excuses, you can begin to choose differently. Not perfectly, not immediately, but with your eyes open. For the first time. The wrong people did not find you by accident, and the right person will not find you by luck. They will find you when you have done enough of this work to recognize them, not because they feel electric, but because they feel safe. And you have finally learned to call that feeling what it actually is. Love? This is Philokemi. We will see you in the next one.